Hi everybody, good afternoon. This is Jean here, Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for You. I just wanted to let you guys know that I had the opportunity today to see my friend Jen. If you've been following, you know and love our Jen. My friend has been around where there's a 20-year age difference between me and Jen. I'm 20 years older than her, if you hadn't figured that out. But she's been in our life for the last 25 years or so, even maybe more. Have seen all of our children, been in our children's lives, been here when babies were born and when kids have been married. Jen has been around. In fact, Maxwell's first outing was when he was 2 weeks old. At Jen and Ben's wedding. It's funny that we have a picture somewhere of Jen going away in her to the honeymoon holding Maxwell. Maxwell did not go on the honeymoon with him, but holding Maxwell in his little tuxedo. He was 2 weeks old. She's been around forever, and we see each other on Zoom, but we text each other ever such a lot. 2020 has been really hard. Our granddaughter and Jen's daughter are best friends, and have not seen each other. We're trying to pretty much shelter in place at home, not mix households a lot with the COVID and everything, trying to stay safe. So 2020 was actually a bit of a bust, even for Jen and I. The last thing that we did, and I documented it on my YouTube channel here, was to go see Celine Dion concert last February 2020. And it was funny because how life has changed literally almost overnight. We went to the Celine Dion concert down at the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. And it was 20,000 people. I mean, the lady next to me was sort of touching. Jen was here. Our knees were there. Somebody's knees were there in the arena. Didn't think anything of it. Obviously before social distancing. Anyway, I had texted Jen, and as I said, we text each other all the time, back and forth, but I said, I'm just going to happen to be at a certain store 2 o'clock on Monday, masked, of course. So yeah, just interesting that. Never know, funny who you would, bump into. So, well, wouldn't you believe it? What wasn't it a coincidence? There I look up and there's Jen. I'm like, oh my word, what are you doing here? So we of course masked and everything, 6 foot apart, literally. We're huggy people. I'm like, Jen. But we had such a lovely time. Went out in the parking lot, talked for a long time. We took one photograph that I'm using of us together, but we social distanced, didn't touch each other. One picture. And caught up on a lot of things. The reason I'm wanting to do this is because a lot of you have been asking, where's Jen, where's Jen, where's Jen? She's in my life. And she was like, I was so desperate to go to a quilt show so we can meet some of you people. Of course, it's our little, if it was a little quilt show right in our area, it would be right here. We had been we had been hoping perhaps there's a Houston International Quilt Show in November of 2021. I found out about it back in September, and I think I don't remember, don't quote me on this, but I remember back in September or October that you could sort of make a reservation or something. Reservations were going to be beginning to open up soon, and maybe we could go. And I said to Jen, even back in December, I'm like, just because she does all the travel arrangements or whatever, I'm like, whatever it is, whatever it costs, however long, let's go, because the Houston show is one of the largest ones. We went, as you know, we go to our quilt shows in our area. We go for the afternoon, we go for the day, and go shopping. But obviously it would be a days long event for us. Well, long story short, she's like, I don't know if I can find tickets. She's looking all the time. It's either sold out or there's no hotels in the area, whatever. And it was all up in the air anyway, but we really missed that and are hoping that maybe by the summertime or in the autumn time, some of the quilt shows that are in our area will have opened up. They are virtual now. You know, I don't know. It's nice to be able to see quilts, just like what we're showing here. But also another few things. Jen has just, she was showing me some quilts that she had finished, that she's working on. Now, in 2020, like me, we didn't do an awfully lot. She didn't do an awfully lot. It really did sort of take a toll on us. But being very, very creative people, as you know, all of a sudden she's like, 2021 is going to be better. Even if the numbers go up, it's going to be better, right? So that's sort of how I feel with this block party that I'm doing. Anyway, she hadn't finished our 2019 block party, my 9-inch blocks. I'm like, Jen. So she got them out, but she had run out of fabric. And that's why she had gone to the store to find some fabric for the backing, I believe, whatever it was. And she couldn't make the 42 9-inch sampler blocks. She had only made 20 of them, so it's going to be a small quilt. She needed sashing. But she was saying she's going to finish that up before she starts her 2021 block party coming up. A bit concerned about, like, oh my word, 6-inch blocks, 6-inch blocks. I'm like, it'll be okay. But it was interesting. If any of you here are tuning in to, you know, find out how our Jen's doing, but also about joining our block party, sort of beginner. She's like, well, is it really for beginners, Jean? And I'm like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. She said, because I taught Jen in 2018 how to make a quilt. And we were working with 12.5-inch to 12-inch blocks, big blocks. Okay, that's her first quilt that I'm going to put a picture up if you haven't seen it before. That her very first quilt that she had done. And then she was working on her 2019, she's since made other quilts, but she said she had sort of, she would suggest to others that you actually sort of go, if you're a beginner, go look. I have a playlist for both 2018 and 2019 of my quilt party, and just go to the very first blocks that I'm doing for you beginners, just to look at the video of how you, as I keep saying in the new, I'm working on another video, to perfect your 1/4-inch seam, to know how to iron, again, to work at your sewing machine. She had gotten a new sewing machine because she had done her original quilt on a old sewing machine, her grandmother's sewing machine. Again, we have videoed those videos, those instances of us going and buying her new Juki sewing machine. She doesn't have the same one I do. She does have a computerized Juki that is awesome, fantastic. She really did her homework, and we got her a really nice machine because she's now not a beginner. She's very much an advanced or even an intermediate quilter. And as we were chatting and talking and just loving on each other, and it was just so very, very nice. I've missed her so much. She said, I have some of my quilts in the car. So she had said, Jen is amazing. If you watched my trip around the world, my little quilt that I just did for Anita, if you watch that, Jen said, oh, I made a trip around the world. And I'm like, oh, well, you know that I made my trip around the world quilt with 2.5-inch strips, right? 2.5-inch strips. And you could have made, if you refer back to that video, I should have made 4 of the exact same unit and turned them a 1/4 of a turn. I was making a big song and dance of it because my left and my right hand brain, right? It wasn't working. But she's like, oh, I made a trip around the world quilt. I used my layer cakes. You'll see. I'm going to put the video, the picture of her quilt. We went out in the parking lot, and I'm like, oh, she texted me how she did this quilt. Because I'm like, that's not a trip around the world, Jen. She said, yeah, it is. I'm like, no, it's not. It's sort of half square triangles around a center, but I'm like, that's not, it's a variation of, and it's not a it's a multicolor. It's this beautiful explosion of color. I said, how did you do that? And she's texted me this long text of how she made this quilt. I'm like, well, you didn't follow my video. What are you talking about? It's just the funniest thing. I may actually put up how she made this quilt. And after I really concentrated, because I'm like, well, forget it, my COVID brain's I'm not reading your text, Jen, how you did this. I was having we were having a laugh. She said, no, I did this. What I'm saying is, as an advanced beginner, intermediate, almost experienced quilter, she put her own spin on it. And you'll see, it does not look anything like my trip around the world. It's much bigger. Oh, it was so funny. And then she actually had done the Hoffman challenge. If you remember, again, going back to a few videos ago, there is a fabric manufacturer every year supplies to quilt shops and online their focal fabric. This is Hoffman fabric, Hoffman of California fabric, and they choose a line of fabrics in their fabric line, and they have what's called the Hoffman Challenge, and they provide 6 fabrics. That you need to use in a small-ish quilt. They give the dimensions. And so say it's like a 36-inch square quilt, something like that. But it can be a rectangle, it can be a circle, just so the diameter, whatever, the circumference, what is that? I don't know. The measurement on the outside doesn't exceed a certain number. It's a small quilt. But you have to use at least 3 of the Hoffman Challenge fabrics. Now, Jen was all excited back in September, I don't know, like, oh, let's do the Hoffman challenge. So I'm like, okay, because we were going to do a challenge. And well, I looked up the Hoffman challenge. The last 3 or 4 years of Hoffman fabric I've adored. In fact, I've gotten one. I'd gotten 10 yards of the one fabric, the jewel fabric. I love it, love it, love it. I looked it up. With all due respect to Hoffman fabrics, I don't love this fabric, and I've talked about this before. I'm like, Jen, I bought it. And I bought 1/4 yard because it's just, you use small pieces. You can use 3 up to 6, and then you can use whatever's in your brain, and you can use other fabrics to make up something. I got my fabrics, and I really struggled. Again, I struggled in 2020. And it got to the point where I texted Jen. I said, sorry, Jen. I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not forcing myself to make something I really don't want to make, especially in this frame of mind. You know, mentally exhausted with COVID. The pandemic fatigue is set in. I'm not going to do that. It's adding more stress to an already stressful situation that the world is enduring here. Anyway, Jen made hers, and she had sent me a picture about 2 months ago, because she did it and she finished it. I'm like, Jen, we have 6 months to do this thing, right? She finished it immediately. Anyway, it's her bunny in the garden. And I'm going to put a picture up. She showed me today in the parking lot. She's like, here's my quilt. I said, Jen, you should absolutely enter it, because if you are a beginner, advanced beginner, it is fantastic. So I took pictures of Jen's Hoffman challenge. These are the 6 fabrics. You have to sort of search for them in Jen's quilt, but that's okay. You just have to use a small bit. She used all of the fabrics. The carrot she looked at the fabric, she said, oh, I saw that looked like a carrot. And so she said, well, so she cut out a carrot, and then she made her bunny. Oh my goodness, this girl is so very, very talented. And the last thing I want to share with you is she has just, as of today, made an Instagram, Quilts by Jen. She's made an Instagram account she's going to be putting up her the quilts that I've taught her how to twilt. I taught her 3 years ago how to quilt, and the different quilts that she's putting up on her Instagram that you can go on. I'm like, is it okay if people, request to follow her? And she's like, absolutely. So it's her quilts and her journey. But I was asking Jen and her husband Ben, who's a techie guy, I said, how can the community here, once we get started on our block party, how can people see each other's blocks? Now, if you had followed my block party the last 2 years, you will have known I have a website. It's called www.thewhateverquiltclub.com. If you type it in, you can go to this Cheap Jack, I don't know who did it, weird website, but it does have so many people's blocks from 2018 and 2019. And they're finished quilts. So actually go there, you guys, if you're a beginner or whatever, and get some ideas, because a lot of people, I'm like, oh my goodness, these people are beginners, or they were following. Of course, the 2018 are larger blocks. The 2019 were smaller, and ours are going to be even smaller. But the reason I'm saying about the whateverquiltclub.com, it was a tremendous amount of work for me. It was my idea, and so we set this up somehow. Maybe Elliot helped me. People would send me photographs of their quilt blocks. Then I would have to upload them, download them, put them into a file, open up things, copy and paste, and put da-da-da-da-da-da. And I did it. I did it for 2 quilt block parties. But I'm like, I'm not doing that again. It was too much effort. It took a tremendous amount of time. I loved sharing. So I had said to Jen, ask Ben what I can do. I have a private Facebook that I don't accept people who I don't know. It's a private account, but I have a public Facebook account, sort of a business account, Truelove Quilts for You, on Facebook. I know I'm not going to get into the whole social media Facebook thing. I have that, and I just sometimes put stuff about my family or a picture or whatever. It's just sort of random, like my brain is random. But I thought, how can people put something on my Facebook thing? Well, Ben just told Jen, well, she can do it by the people can share on a community setting, I think. I'm not even quite sure where that is or how that's done. But if you go, once we start, just remember, if you want to share your quilt block, which we want to see, everybody wants to see this because we're all in this together, your fabric choices, your color choices, it's my Truelove Quilts for You, that you can just follow. Truelove Quilts for You on Facebook. And then I guess there's something called the community section. Ben said that. I just have to figure that out. But that's me. But Jen, if you want to see what she's done, this is a brand new quilter who's only been quilting for 3 years. Actually, almost just 2, because 2020 was a wash. She made her first quilt in 2018. Is finishing up her second 2019, and has made a dozen quilts in that time. A dozen. Just made one last week. Unbelievable. The one that I'm going to put up. The one that she held up and showed. And she's gifting that. I said, what are you going to do with all your quilts, Jen? She said, I know. She has a lot of people. We have a wide variety of friends in our congregation that we gift things to. And so she's like, I'm going to make something for this person and that person. That's what we love. You know, giving is so much better than receiving. It's wonderful. So she's like, so we went and we got more fabric. I am working on my block party. I'm putting it together, another part 2 of an intro. I know you people are like, oh my goodness, we just get to like sew, make the blocks. I'm not doing that. I'm working up. I'm trying to fill in the spots of people who don't really know what to expect or really do need help. Again, this is not for you advanced quilters, but I think, just to have a chat back and forth and commenting back and forth. And again, I really knew that you were wondering where Jen was. People have been so kind to Maxwell, so very, very kind. And he's so funny. He's like, so you want me to come on your video, Mom, so you get more views? People love me. I'm like, you stop it. He's so funny. And but he said, I will. What should we talk about, Mom? I said, I don't know. Life, what do we talk about? I don't know. But people want to hear somehow. Having an autistic child, quite a lot of you are an autistic person. He's not a child anymore. Maxwell's 21. And how we deal with him and his beauty and his uniqueness. It's wonderful, and a lot of you can relate to if you have an autistic grandchild or son or nephew or niece, and how we do it. And we're very blessed to have our Maxwell. And our friends, we have a wide variety of friends who we are missing desperately. Our grandchildren, we have 16 grandchildren, and I've only seen a smattering of them, and it's at a distance, but we're really trying to keep safe until the numbers really come down in our area. They spiked. They were okay at the end of the summer, and then they spiked. They went down, and then they spiked again. But hopefully 2021 will prove more positive. And I said to Jen, and even Jen said, we were standing in the parking lot. She even said, well, even if it's not, we're going to be positive. Like, enough of being miserable. It's what it is. We can deal with this. We can deal with the masks. Okay, whatever. We can stay safe. We'll get over this. And in the meantime, we have something to look forward to. She's like, I have to create. I said, I do too. So I'm a little bit slow on the uptake, but with my block party. But I know you people will understand that, and I can only give what I can give when I can give it. And I know you'll be there for me. So I just wanted to tell you that. Quilts by Jen. Look her up on Instagram. Follow her. And yeah, see what she's done as a beginner quilter. This girl, she's on fire, I'm telling you. Anyway, she said send her love to everybody, and she'll be back when it's safe. And we'll have a laugh then. We'll all have a laugh. So I just thought I'd share that with you today, folks. And have a lovely day, and love from the Trueloves. All right, see ya. Bye.